Thank you all. It is good to be with you, and thank you, June, for the work that you've been doing for justice in America and for this district. You have a tremendous team, and the Southern District of New York is a great district. It has tremendous pride, professionalism, skill, determination, independence, they say, and we appreciate that. It used to make me feel bad since I was a Southern District of Alabama, and they would say the Southern District, but you are the Southern District, and I appreciate that and the leadership that you've done. And I remember visiting Rudy Giuliani here when he was my supervisor. He was associate. In those days, the associate in the early 1980s had the criminal division and the U.S. attorneys. And actually, I'm telling you, Rudy was there when some of the great changes occurred in law enforcement that were different than anything since the founding of the Republic, and it evolved into honesty in sentencing, sentencing guidelines, minimum mandatories, no bail on appeal, pretrial detention. All of those things happened in the mid-'80s, and it changed law enforcement entirely. I want to particularly, June, express my commendation for your efforts on the Peter Gotti case and the kind of cases that have always been made here in this district. That's important work. We planned this trip a couple of weeks ago, I guess, for the purpose of talking about national security. It's a big issue for America. We've got some key legislative battles that are out there we need to get done and have the right result on. And we, of course, had no idea what would happen Tuesday. But it's a really dramatic definition of what we need to do and why what we're doing is so important. And I want to first offer my condolences to the families of the victims, those who've been injured, and to the people of New York for the losses that occurred Tuesday. We express our deepest sympathy for that. To the families and friends, we say we are going to bring anyone that was involved in that, the perpetrator, to justice. I know you'll be committed to that, and so will the Department of Justice. This latest tragedy showed once again the bravery of the police officers that serve us every day. In particular, of course, I want to mention Officer Ryan Nash of the 1st Precinct. His quick response, courageous action under pressure prevented the attack from getting worse. He's rightly regarded as a hero today, not just in New York, but across America. He symbolizes the best in law enforcement. I remember at the Capitol a number of years ago, I saw a young officer just racing past me, and there was a shooting outside the Capitol. He didn't know what was out there. Could it have been a gang of terrorists with automatic weapons and things? He was going to the fight. That's what our law enforcement officers do. We need to validate them. We need to affirm them. And we need to, if someone in a department does wrong, they need to be punished. But we need to affirm steadfastly the great officers who serve us every day, put their lives on the line for us. This morning, I attended the roll call with officers from the 13th Precinct, some of whom responded to the 9/11 attacks. It was an honor for me to meet with them. They embody the highest ideals of law enforcement and public service. And the people of New York should know that they have one of the finest law enforcement institutions in the country, maybe the finest. I certainly was more impressed after leaving today than I was when I came. We know, those of you in the federal government know, that 85% of law officers serve at the state and local level. This administration cannot succeed in our goal of reducing crime without our state and local partners. We're all in it together. The president, New Yorker, law and order president, and he's serious about it, gave us 3 orders. One was to back the men and women in blue. And we take that seriously. I hope you will take that seriously, because these are the frontline folks that make us safe. The second order was crack down and dismantle transnational criminal organizations, ISIS, gangs, cartels, terrorists. Those are high priorities always for the federal government, our federal prosecutors, and I know you'll focus on that. And thirdly, we got a directive, an order from the president, simply to reduce crime in America. New York is reducing crime. America, the crime is going up way too fast. I've seen it. I observed it. When I started as a young prosecutor in the 70s, crime was going up every year. We began to turn the tide in the 80s with the new reforms in criminal justice that I mentioned. And it began to pay fruition in the 90s and into the 2000s. But we've seen some changes nationally. Murder went up in 2015, 12%, according to the FBI data, and homicide was up another 8% in 16. 20% increase nationwide in homicide. The 12% increase was the largest increase in homicide nationally since 1968. So I'm worried about that. And I take the president's charge seriously. We embrace that charge. We, as federal officials, need to be working with our state and locals to see if we can't, reverse that trend. And the most important thing I think I learned today was a reaffirmation, friends, that if we do the right policies, we can impact crime. This is just a stunning development. How much New York has brought down certain violent crime incidents in this city, 3/4 maybe. And if we can do that, and they believe we can nationwide, we can begin to see us head in the right directions. So this week's deadly incident, the deadliest attack in New York since 9/11, is another reminder of the dangerous threats we face from radical Islamic terrorism and the kind of threats we're seeing nationwide. New Yorkers know firsthand that terrorists want nothing more than take away our most basic rights, the right to be safe, the most fundamental right. They aim to diminish our freedom and to constrict our lifestyles. And if it weren't for our troops, our intelligence community, and our law enforcement, the terrorists would be succeeding. Since 9/11, the Department of Justice has made fighting terrorism its top priority. Our goal is not to just catch terrorists, but to prevent them from striking us. That was the entire discussion after 9/11 in the Judiciary Committee and the Armed Services Committee, both of which I was a member. And that's what we talked about, and we do not want to forget that principle. And this fight against terrorism, we have gotten results. We have made progress. People in this room and around the country have made us safer. 3 days a week I meet with the FBI, and we talk about terrorism and threats to our countries. That's the focus of it, in the classified briefing. I got to say that I have been amazed how effective our federal investigative agencies have been in preventing attacks. But if you look at it mathematically, you can see that we can't possibly identify all attacks in advance and stop them from occurring. Things that happened Tuesday. That's very, very difficult to do. But we have interdicted quite a number and made quite a good success on it. So we've got to be careful to maintain our success and not have anything occur that could undermine that effectiveness. So last month, just would share some cases with you. A federal grand jury convicted Ahmaud Rahimi for his role in the September 2016 Chelsea, New York City bombing. To the assistant attorneys who worked on this case, Emil Bove, is he here? Is he good? Andrew